Do you love the Premier League? Because I know I do. And here at the Footy Culture, we are here to bless you with an exclusive discount from our friends at Fubo TV, where you can stream all the Premier League matches live in 4K. Do you love watching Heung-min Son, Bukayo Saka, Manchester United? All of that is available to stream exclusively here in Canada on Fubo TV. So hit our link in the bio for that exclusive offer. Now let's get into the action.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Footy Culture Podcast. Joined today with a very, very special guest. To my left here, I got Maksym Kowal, ex-professional football player, current football trainer for Complete Striker Training. Maksym, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Apart from that, we got the usual crew. We got Jay.
What's going on, guys?
Dan and Matt behind the cams.
What up, what up?
Cleaning up for us today.
Yes.
And let's get right into it. So Max, thanks again for coming by. I think we best to start. How'd you get into the game? How'd you fall in love with the game? What kind of got you into football? What kind of allowed you to make this a career for yourself?
I think the beginnings are kind of the typical thing that happens at a young age. It was my dad, actually. He was a professional basketball player, but he decided when he came to Canada that basketball wasn't going to be for me.
Yeah.
And he just used to take me in the hallways, and I just smash balls in the corridor, get the Chinese neighbors really upset. And, yeah, that's pretty much how it started.
And where were you growing up at the time?
I grew up in Etobicoke. There used to be these buildings, these Capri Tower buildings off 427 and I think Rathburn.
Okay.
These really big buildings.
Yeah.
And I think when I first we were first there, I think almost 85% of the building was like either Polish or Ukrainian.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
So yeah, it was a really nice community. And then I think up until like grade 2, everyone kind of went their separate ways into Mississauga. So yeah.
And was there, like, growing up, what was like that big first exposure to the game? Because I know for a lot of people, like, it's maybe that first World Cup that you watch. Maybe there's a player that bursts onto the scene that you're like, damn, like you're trying to really model your game after him. You're idolizing him. What was that moment for you?
I think if you guys know any Ukrainian soccer players, probably one comes to mind, Shevchenko. So that was probably like the first time, like the first exposure. He was like the king of football in Italy at the time as well. And yeah, that was pretty much the guy, to be fair.
Were you a Milan fan though?
I think by default, but but really it was just him, right? I mean, I was just, watching him and seeing him score goals and seeing him, become like Ballon d'Or winner. It was fascinating, to be honest, for a Ukrainian player. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, if like a Ukrainian player, first one to win the Ballon d'Or, obviously. So obviously you're going to look up to him and idolize him. So I know you mentioned by default you were a Milan fan. So is that the team that you support for the most part? Do you support any teams really, or are you just kind of a player of the game?
Actually, so Shevchenko is like a separate conversation, but from young as well, I was always a Liverpool fan.
Liverpool,
So that was
eh?
That final must have been heartbreaking.
Yeah. I was too young to understand it. But no, I think Liverpool was always like the team from since when I was young.
Yeah.
That was the main thing.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the Europeans just seem to gravitate to Liverpool, but obviously you're growing up, you're watching Shevchenko, Milan and whatnot. What's your first entry into playing the game? Are you playing locally in Saga? Like, what's your first kind of club, and how are you kind of growing from there?
So yeah, like kind of continuing on from what I was saying, like we kind of kept a really tight Ukrainian community growing up. So even from where I grew up and stuff like that, all those parents and families, like we kind of stayed together in like a community club. So I started in this small club called USC Karpaty. They're still around now, and yeah, we all played there. It was house league, but we happened to kind of get lucky early on. We had a lot of like coaches from Ukraine come. They were moving for like a better life. They all played like top league. Some guys played like back in the USSR national team even.
Oh, wow.
Man.
So it was really, really lucky. I had like 2 or 3 coaches like that. So they were dealing with like horrific players. But yeah, we had like the benefit of working with them. So yeah, that was kind of the first exposure.
Were you always the same position growing up, or did it kind of switch along the way?
Actually, I started off as a center back.
Center back, eh?
Yeah, I was kind of the rock at the back, but then I just kept shooting from half, and then they eventually moved me up.
He's like, yo, this guy's got a nice shot. Let's put him up top,
Yeah,
man.
especially once we went to like big goals and stuff. Yeah, kind of started happening more often, and then eventually, yeah, never looked back after that.
And how old are you at this point when you're like you're growing up, you're making that shift kind of from CB to striker?
I think it was pretty early on, to be honest. It was like 9, 10, 11, somewhere around there.
And at this point, like growing up in Canada, are you having aspirations of going pro? Like, do you think it's even possible? Because growing up, like I said, especially here in Canada, there's not really too many references of like, especially in our area, in our community, where it's like, wow, I could make it pro. Like, did you have those kind of visions growing up?
Yeah, I think it was just that fantasy, like every kid has right now, even, and I'm sure they've had it before, and the generations before me. Yeah, it was just pure fantasy, man. I think because I played house league, especially compared to kids now, like they're training, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
A couple of teams, a couple of games a day. And for me, it was like just a couple of times a week training, game. And then the rest of the time I just spent on the pitch on myself, right? Just building imagination and playing. Like that was like kind of what gave me like the passion and like the dream, Now I think the game's kind of shifting in a way where kids are kind of like overloaded a bit too much.
Yeah.
And so they're losing the enjoyment, the passion, the imagination.
Yeah.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right?
Mhm,
So
For sure.
we'll see kind of where football goes, especially with the next generation coming through.
Yeah, like I say this all the time. I know some of us agree here. They're trying to structure the kids at such a young age. Like at age 7, at age 8, you're already playing 11v11 when at that age you should be learning how to play with the ball, learning how to get out of difficult situations, ball control, ball manipulation, stuff like that, instead of being so structured. So like, where are you finding creativity from at that age? Like you said, watching Shevchenko, obviously, but did you think it was important to be like a creative player?
Well, I definitely thought it was important to be a shooter. I just honestly, man, I spent if I think back now, I spent so many hours shooting the ball. Like it's crazy. And to be honest, I think from the imagination standpoint as well, it was like I was trying to recreate goals all the time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, all the time. I loved it. I loved watching, like, you watch Shevchenko's goals, you watch, I don't know, Drogba, Torres, I don't know, whoever. And so when you're doing this and you finally score the goal that they score, without even thinking, you're actually building, like, you're building technique, you're building something that you might do in a game.
Right.
And then kind of looking forward, these type of goals did start to happen. So it's kind of interesting how that kind of translates, right? Another guy, massive guy for me was like Zlatan. Like, sure you guys will probably agree.
World class.
Yeah.
But it's not even that he just tries these like really crazy attempts at goal. He's genuinely amazing. He knows what he wants to do, and he's not scared to try something. And I think in those attacking positions, that's probably the most important thing.
So you think coaches these days they're being too structured with their players, with their teams, and like, how do you think the future of the game will go in that sense? Like, you think we'll see less creative players, less skillers, like players like Neymar, Ronaldinho? Is that like a dying breed going forward, do you think?
I think where it's changing now is that I actually had this discussion with a few guys was I think back in the day we used to always think forwards were like the top guys, and now everyone wants to be a winger. I think that's like that seems to be kind of the direction it's going. Mbappe, guys, any player who plays on the wing, pretty much, right?
Yeah, all these guys.
Those are the flashy players nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, more in that flashy sense. But at the same time, the game, like you said, it is kind of becoming more of a chess game, and we have to be really careful how we restrict players. It's pretty obvious that like kids are starting to get a little bit robotic, and even then the young kids that I see now, they're very like almost too structured in what they want to do with the ball.
Yeah.
Or they have the skill, but they have no idea how to use it. So that's that like tricky middle ground.
Yeah, like you look at all like the top skillful ballers growing up, Zidane, Ronaldinho. These guys grew up playing in the streets, in the cages, right? You don't really have that anymore with how structured they're getting with the kids, so it's a little tough. But I want to ask you, what was that moment where maybe like growing up, you had a feeling that you had the ability to make it pro?
That's a good question. I think naivety definitely played a part in it. I won't lie. I think I was just super determined that I was going to do it. Wasn't really looking at or comparing myself to anyone or anything like that. I just said I'm going to do it, and that's it. And I don't know. I think once I finished high school, and then it was like the next step, either you go now to Europe or you go to the States. And so I was telling my parents, like, why aren't you sending me to Dynamo Kiev or to Ukraine or somewhere? And I was surprised why I didn't have a trial, you know? And they're like, from what? What did you do?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? And who's going to send you there? And so that was the first reality to kind of like take a step down. But I was lucky enough to get picked up in the States, and that was probably like the first push.
What was that NCAA experience like?
It was cool, man. Honestly, I needed that. I think I would have gotten eaten if I went to Europe straight away.
Really?
Yeah. Like 17, me at 17, 18, I was not ready to be in that jungle just yet. So
Just like physically, mentally?
no, I don't think on a purely like football standpoint, I don't know. Probably on a football standpoint as well. But I think just living life on your own.
Yeah, that's true.
And probably my level wasn't good enough, I'd probably have to say. So yeah, the States just opened up this route where, you're somewhere for 4 years and you have the opportunity to use the facilities and play good competition, travel. So yeah, it took about a year to get used to living life on your own. But then after that, yeah, it was good. It was an amazing experience.
Nice.
So you were hit with like a huge reality check entering college. Like, what was that feeling like mentally?
Honestly, man, it was a blast. I'm not gonna lie. It was just like more what I thought was hard work and difficult, like doing school and football the first semester. Like my GPA was so bad, and I had barely any hours. And then by the last year, I had like probably double the hours and like on the dean's list. So it was kind of just funny how unorganized I was and how like still just immature and just trying to enjoy life at football and the social life. So no, it was good. Honestly, from the mental side, I was completely fine. Like we just had great guys around you. There wasn't as much pressure. You playing with the same guys.
Yeah.
That was great, man.
100%. Do you recommend kind of taking that NCAA route? Because obviously you were put at a decision where it's like, obviously your parents, like you wanted to go to Europe, but it's like your parents were kind of advising you, and obviously you had that NCAA option. But if you had to go back in time and maybe you had some European offers on the table, would you still maybe take that NCAA route?
I mean, if the offers are on the table, I'm sure the young me would just go for it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think twice.
Yeah.
What would happen after? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I'd probably just try to head that way, to be honest.
100%.
I was desperate then.
Awesome. Yeah. So obviously, you had a good 4 years at Buffalo, right? I know you played with Marcus from FTF.
Yeah.
Shout out Marcus.
Yeah.
Marcus and Shane. So after that, kind of what was your next step in the journey? Like, was it kind of a direct from college to the professional level, or what was that next step kind of like for you?
So at the time there was this league called the PDL. So it was pretty much like the best players in the States summer league.
Okay.
And, I did it like my third year as well in the States. And so I played a season in Des Moines, Iowa. It was a really cool experience, man. It was like I said, the best college players all together and on a campus and playing the best competition around the States. So that was great. And then I did it again the year after with Toronto Lynx.
Okay.
But the Toronto Lynx, I think they don't exist anymore. So I did that one more year. I played like a couple games, and then I had this one captain from Buffalo. He reached out to me. He said, "Listen, when you finish school, my dad has some team in England."
Oh shit!
So this is how it started.
Plug connections, bro.
Waiting for that first any opportunity, to be honest.
Yeah.
There was nothing out there. So yeah, pretty much it was as simple as I literally just packed my bag and actually met my other teammate who played with me in the States too, Jonathan Viscosi, goalkeeper. He just signed for Valor now.
Oh,
Yeah, nice.
So we kind of actually started that journey together. It was kind of cool. I had like 2 years with him in the States. We both just grinding, same goals. And yeah, man, we both just met up in England. So that was the beginning. But yeah, like when I arrived where I was supposed to go, or I ended up was like, it's probably like, I think maybe what, 9th division.
ninth division, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. In England, they have like probably over 10 divisions easily.
Yeah.
Of football, so it's a crazy country for football. But yeah, I mean that there's a lot to say about that story, so I don't know what parts you guys want to hear.
Was there like a big gap in like the quality of football between college and then the ninth tier of England?
Oh yeah, no, 9th tier wasn't like wasn't fascinating. Like I came back when I came from the States, obviously fit and ready to go. So within like 2 months of playing there, scoring goals, everything was going well, and then I got picked up by a team like 2 or 3 leagues higher.
Oh, nice.
So then it was decent. It was good.
What was the culture shock of like going from NCAA college life to England? I'm not like, what city were you in England?
The first year I arrived, I was in this little town called Barnstable Town, and actually the first day in England, I went surfing.
Surfing?
That's
What,
crazy.
in England?
Yeah, you won't believe it, but yeah, it was first day I arrived. I'm like, wow, what is this place? Beach,
You're in Malibu or something?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But really, it was just a little tiny town, man. I don't know how many people, but the culture shock. I think at the time, my head was just very much in like the here's an adventure, just go for it, just enjoy whatever gets thrown at you. So I think culture shock wise is just like always, just a new environment, new people. You don't know where anything is, how things work. I mean, and as well, like, okay, I matured over those 4 years in the States, but then showing up there was again like, I'm just here to play football. So I showed up like thinking I had no business thinking I was gonna work or anything like that. I was like strictly football. So that was that's an interesting story in itself. First contract for £45 a week.
Oh wow.
What?
That was in the 9th tier?
That was a 9th tier team. But of course, because all of them work, right?
Yeah.
And even in the other leagues they do. But just to kind of give an idea, like showing up and someone saying to you, okay, this is what you're making. So what did that mean for me? That was for me 1 coffee a week, just enough to the gym.
Jesus.
You got a budget like crazy.
I was not working, man. I was so committed. And so, everyone thought it was crazy, man.
Where were you staying?
I was staying, and then on top of that, I had to stay at the director's house.
Oh, really, eh?
Yeah.
He had some room in his house?
Yeah. So he was pretty much looking after me. I mean, I think he knew I wasn't going to be there too long because, like, within, like I said, 2-3 games, like, I know I scored a lot of goals and, like, yeah, it was cool, you know. It was a smaller town, but the whole town would come out. So they're like, who's this random Canadian kid here?
Who's this Canadian
Why'd
lad?
you come from Canada all the way here? It's always the question, but
That's a crazy story. So obviously, you made that jump from the 9th tier up to a higher tier. How did that kind of, I guess, come about? Like, was it like, were there actual scouts out there watching the 9th tier, or did you have another connection to kind of take you to that next level?
So, like I mentioned, my buddy Jonathan, he went to the team Tibertan Town. So that was like originally where I was supposed to go. But in preseason, he's a goalkeeper. But in preseason, they had about 40 players on trial.
Damn.
So the guy who brought me over was like, "Listen, like, I don't think you can go there right now. It's just too many players." And then eventually, this guy, whoever was the coach at the time, was just like kind of dropping players left and right. Just getting rid of them if he didn't like them after 1 game. And so eventually, like, it's everyone knows kind of the players around the area. So eventually just kind of word of mouth, and we played a game against them, or they watched one of our games, and then I was in there.
What's like kind of motivating you at this point? Because obviously, like, you're not playing the highest division, you're going from 9th to a couple tiers up, and like, are you homesick at this point, or are you just kind of really motivating yourself trying to make it to that higher tier? Like, what's really like motivating you at this point?
I think because it was so early on, it was still like, I was just like, I don't care really what happens right now. It's not important. I think it's more important like where I'm going. And I think when you're playing and you know you're better than what's there and you're performing, it kind of gives you just a boost. You're like, okay, my job's not done yet. This is just like, just the beginning. Once I got to Tiverton was like when I would say I was at a level now where like, okay, I'm competing. This is not as easy as I thought. Still a good level, but now you're facing that like trickle down effect in England where you have like, you can imagine like the first 5 leagues are professional. So,
Yeah.
a conference player that's on loan coming down to the 6th or 7th in my league. And then imagine like from the top, all that trickle down. So you're actually playing against amazing players.
Interesting.
First, I think 6 divisions are pretty top level, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, really top level. So yeah, that was probably the first bit of like real competition where I was like, okay, welcome, like good luck. That's when I realized I was like, damn, like this is going to be really difficult to move up from here. You saw like guys would score like 15, 20 goals. There'd be like 5, 6 players that would do it and they still wouldn't move up. So,
Jeez.
I would say England's by far the hardest place in the world to play and the hardest place in the world to move up the
Interesting.
leagues.
And what are your parents thinking at this point? Obviously, they see you're making that 50 quid a week, and then they see you rising up the ranks. Like, what are the conversations like with them?
I think they did quite well. I think my mom's probably always worrying, as moms do.
Yeah.
But my dad was just kind of like let him experience it, let him see what happens. We're here if we need him. But you know what? Like a lot of times I was hoping like they would call or whatever, but I think my dad did it on purpose. He was like, listen, like if he needs us, he'll come to us. It was always that type of conversation, right? But yeah, no, I would say that in England, man, it's a different beast. Like for anyone who wants to, learn how to play football and really see what a men's game is, go to England.
Yeah, like what's the quality of football at that time, at that level? Like, is it super technical? Is it really grit and grind, hoofball? Like, what's the quality of football like?
Honestly, I think the top 4 leagues, I would say they try to play football. And even in the lower leagues, they still try to play. It's just that for the most part, it's probably the most physical league, I would say. Obviously, we always hear that.
Yeah.
The speed is crazy. So I was always fascinated with England too. That's the reason I wanted to go there so bad.
Yeah.
Because I just love the speed, the power, just the type of goals that are always being scored. And so actually it was, even though it was the hardest place, it was the most enjoyable football as well. And you didn't always get to play on the best pitches. Like my pitch would be the best pitch in September. And by December, I promise you, we had games where, I don't know, the center back would hoof the ball and the ball would literally stop.
Jesus.
Like in a puddle.
Yeah.
Just right in the grass.
That's the worst.
Just frozen. Yeah. And so it was crazy also to see like guys on my team were like dribblers and they would dribble through these patches, beat players, just control the ball. Like it was really hard. I think that was the hardest thing for me, bro. It was like playing on like flat surfaces and then going somewhere where it's just even a little bit, some divots here or whatever.
Yeah.
It was so difficult to get used to that for me in the beginning.
100%. And obviously we hear like, or you see the headlines like in the lower levels of England, like it's grimy, like you're really grinding to kind of make it. Do you have any like stories from that time? Any like crazy stories? Maybe like something like maybe like with a teammate, with a certain coach, like certain advice they're giving you. Like, do you have any stories from that time?
Well, I can tell you a story about the first 2 preseasons I had there.
Okay.
It was a nice little welcome to England. So the first preseason I got there with, I think this would have been with Tiverton, because then when I went over to them, we had one of our first games, and I think like 30 minutes in, go up for a header, elbow, boom, cheekbone,
Jesus.
completely swollen.
Oh man.
Black eye, and I just played the rest of the game. I mean, it was a nice little welcome.
Did the ref give him a card or what?
Yeah, he still got a card.
Did he get sent off?
No.
No way.
Not in England, man.
In England, I swear, some of the tackles you see, the things that fly, man, like it's funny. You see players yelling at the ref that was even a foul. You see a guy flying at someone's knee, and they're saying like, come on, bro. That's not a foul.
Play on.
Yeah, that's why you always hear English fans like laughing at like games in Canada.
Yeah.
It's like that would never happen in England, and you're telling us it's facts.
Yeah, it's wild. And the second year was the same thing. A preseason game, like first 30 seconds of the game, I go up for a header. This guy flies with his head back. I go like this, breaks my nose.
Jesus Christ.
Blood's going everywhere, and 2 years in a row, 2 nice scars. But it will never happened again after that. I'm telling you, man. It changes you. Yeah, it really changes you in the game after. Like the rest of my career was just like it was like a lesson. It was like you better hit the guy first before he hits you, and that's it. And it sounds bad, but even for kids now, like sometimes I have conversations, man. Kids were scared to like go in a tackle. I'm like, if you're going, it sounds bad, but you're probably better off going in to hurt the person because you will come out injured.
Yeah.
It's one of those like fine line advices, but a bit controversial. But
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys
Yeah, you gotta go in hard, or else obviously you don't know what's gonna happen, right? I feel like you have a better chance of injuring yourself if you're going in kind of 50% and putting yourself at risk, right?
I'm wondering though, what's the culture like with the teammates? Because obviously, like you're just a kid from Canada. I'm sure everyone else on the team, for the most part's from England. They're from around the area. Like, how are they treating you? Like, how are they acting around with you? What's the environment like?
They just don't take any outsiders seriously.
Really, yeah.
I mean, they were good. Like, as you know, the banter is always flying in those streets. It's like nonstop. But they're like those ones where if they get under your skin and they see it, and you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. You're dead. Like,
Anyone get under your skin?
of course, I'm sure. Once or twice. No, it's but at the same time, it was like one of those it's like you hate it and you love it. Like I think that's perfect summary of England for me. Love, hate. Some of the craziest times, some of the best times, some of the worst times, in all different ways, man.
Yeah.
It's so hard to talk about all of it. So
Your teammates ever play any pranks on you?
yeah, nonstop.
It's like hiding your boots and stuff like
I
that.
think one of the funniest stories, actually, this happened. I can tell this story. This one PG. Was we had this manager, and he had a really bad back problem.
Okay.
But he was also like a really strict guy, and so he had this thing where he couldn't like bend down to tie his shoes or like reach his feet.
Right.
And one time he asked, all the guys were in the changing room, and he asked one of the guys, he's like, Matty, come and put on my sock. The guys all looked at each other and just started dying laughing. And he was dead serious. And he was just there without his sock on. And the guy literally went over and put on his sock. And the guys just gave him shit. The rest of the year. They called him Socky Right the rest of the year.
Come on.
Yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, man, it's just constant banter in England. It's nonstop on and off the field. That's good, man.
Yeah, the culture in England is obviously we see it ourselves too. Like you see like the English fans like on Twitter in the games, like there's always, crazy stuff going on in England. So it doesn't surprise me to hear some of these stories. But obviously moving on from England, what was kind of the next step in your career? How long were you kind of, in England? And then what was that kind of next step for you? And why did you make that kind of shift?
I was in England for a year and a half. So my second year I was living in Nottingham. So I'd moved to another team. And basically what happened there is I finally kind of ran into that proper wall where these clubs are all kind of like community clubs at the end of the day. Like you say, everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
It's not like a pro team, right? So I got into a little misunderstanding with the captain who was close with the manager. And at the time I was basically doing this thing called non-contract. So you can basically do contract, which is you play every game, you get paid every game. Non-contract gives you the ability to like go to any team you want. So if someone likes you, they can pick you up right away. They don't have to pay anything. They don't have to wait till the end of the season. So it was a little bit risky.
Yeah.
But I did the same in the other teams. And so, yeah, man, basically I got into that little scuffle. Then I also got kicked out of the family that was hosting me.
Damn.
And this is probably, I would say, like the lowest part of the career. I would say.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I had no team. I had no place to stay. I could have went home, but realistically, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to this place called St. Anne's, which was like St. Anne's is downtown Nottingham. It's like probably one of the roughest place to live. I lived with like 5 other roommates. I don't know what you call it. Maybe like even government housing.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, just to kind of stay and try to figure out what the next move was. And then I dropped down 2 leagues again because there was nothing around. So I played like a couple games. And then out of nowhere, man, it was kind of crazy. I was then I got a job. So even though I said it wouldn't work, sounds crazy to have a job, right? But yeah, it was very much rock bottom. And then my dad just was at one of those sports centers, the Paramount Center.
Yeah.
He was playing in those like ethnic
Men's leagues.
Yeah.
And some random Polish guy came up to him and said, "Hey, I heard your son's playing in England. Does he want to go to Poland?"
Oh.
I was like, okay, here we go. Yeah. And so, yeah, he genuinely, my dad just like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in this. Like, here, just send your highlights from the States. And so I sent it to this guy. And then, yeah, sometimes the stars just align, man. My dad ended up speaking to the agent. And it turned out to be that him and this agent grew up in the same city in Poland.
Oh,
Nice.
He actually used to, I guess, be a sponsor of my dad's team where he played.
oh wow.
And so it was one of those like kind of moments where he's like, I can't promise anything, but I can get him an opportunity.
Right.
And so to kind of give you guys an idea, I haven't really said it to too many people, but I'll tell this story. Was my preparation for that, let's say, trial was basically I was in like a front garden of like a park and just set up like 4 cones and I was just doing doggies.
That was the trial?
That was my preparation.
Oh.
Geez, just makeshift.
I didn't have training sessions anymore. So that was like when as soon as I got that message, man, I was just suicide.
Had to get back as fit as you could, right? Yeah.
By any means.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And then yeah, man. Then I flew into Lodz to Widzew, and 1 second I'm in like probably the worst part of Nottingham, and the next second I'm in Turkey in preseason. So
Damn.
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy, man.
What's that adjustment like? Because obviously, like new country, new language, just a complete shift. Are you nervous going into it? Like, what's your headspace out of this moment? Because you just said you came from the lowest point in your life, and then your dad just has like a revelation for you. Like, it's almost like a second chance, right? So, how you feeling?
Yeah.
So to keep going, knowing that like, you know, if you go to the Poland league or, you know, you're going to go to Turkey for preseason, like, is there really something there for me? Is that, like, you know, just a kind of like an opportunity that you never know if it's actually going to happen, if you're just going to, you know, just go for the experience and then, you know what, next week you're back at home kind of thing.
I think that like because I was getting to such a low point and I had such high expectations for myself to make it in England, that when that opportunity kind of came about, it was like this reinvigorating fire, I guess, in me to be like, okay, like this is it or nothing.
How old are you then?
I think 22, 21, 22.
Yeah.
22, I think. And so, yeah, man, like I was just kind of like, it was like a do or die situation. So I had so much fire building in me. And obviously like that just like that call was just like, holy shit. Like, yeah, let's go. Let's see what this is about. But it was funny too, because as my dad was explaining to me on the phone, he's like, you know where you're going, right? I'm like, no, where am I going? He's like, you're going to a team that used to play in the Champions League. Do you know who the coach is? I was like, nope. He's like, they call him the Pep Guardiola of Poland.
Damn.
I was like, and I just didn't care. Like, I was so like upset in my situation. I was like, I just said to him, like, I don't know if you're trying to scare me or what, but I'm like, I'm just going to go there and just go for it.
Yeah.
What else do I have to lose?
Exactly.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, heavy tunnel vision, really heavy tunnel vision. So it was kind of cool. I think that's kind of what always kind of gave me that, like, if there was like one weapon I've always had is kind of that, like, just go through everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care, willingness to go again and again. And so, yeah, when I arrived, it was actually really funny because typically when you come like halfway through the season, it was like December. They were in the 2nd division at the time, and they were like in a pretty bad point because the club owners for that type of club, to kind of give you guys like an idea, like Widzew Łódź has probably the most fans in Poland.
Wow.
Any league, yeah, by far. And so for that club to go down is like the equivalent of, I don't know, like a Manchester United to go
Yeah.
to the fourth division.
Wow.
But really, I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
They have 2 Champions Leagues, I believe, that they've been a part of. They played against Manchester United, or Viziev played against Liverpool. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, Liverpool. And so it was just crazy, man. Arriving there, and all these kids are coming back from like halfway through the season, just slowly getting into their preseason training. And I've shown up, and usually like what happens is typically these guys come in and they ease their way in. Like I came in and I was just smashing every player, like in every single exercise. The coach was like, and this guy was like a super strict like guy with like a mustache, Catholic, heavy Catholic. Like he took the whole team to the church and stuff.
Wow.
He was a very fascinating character, like on top of like how smart of a footballer, footballing head he had. But he was very intimidating, very, very intimidating. Like this guy would look through you. Like I've not seen many people like that. So to get his attention, I was like, this is probably the only way I can do it.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of the beginning, and then ended up being on trial for like 2 months.
Oh wow.
In Turkey as well. Then we went to Turkey for a month of training, and I was still on trial.
Jeez.
So I didn't actually ever officially sign for them. That was the craziest part. It was I played all these games, the preseason there. Then we went to Turkey. We played like I don't know if you guys met Macedonian champions Vardar. We played some like Bundesliga 3 team. We played some team from Brazil.
Nice.
I think we played the Libyan national team or something.
Wow.
So like out of nowhere, man, like I just made these random jumps into like just the jungle again. It was scary, man, to be honest. I had no experience playing that level. And in some ways, like I wasn't found out yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it was eye opening for sure. The level was very high.
What'd you learn about yourself as a player at that point? What'd you feel like you were really lacking at that point? Because like you said, the level was just so high.
I was lacking everything. No, I think the biggest thing was just like your all around game. Like you just can't compare. Right, I had a lot of young players on my team, and so you just saw like everyone's just much more technical. The amount of mistakes they make. Like this coach happened to love like passing patterns.
Right.
But I mean, like when I say passing patterns, it was like every single day we had a passing pattern that had like 3 different rotations from like 6 different areas, and like your head would be gone. Like, I swear to God, it was never a simple pass move onto the next. It was like 4 people moving around.
Yeah.
It was so intricate. So it was just like being switched on in sessions with this guy was something else, man. It was fascinating.
That make you view the game in a completely different way.
Yeah. I think from every coach you can learn something. With this guy, like it goes without saying, like he was very much like he refused to kick the ball.
Really?
So, yeah, like when we played games against any team, doesn't matter if they were like much better than us. If the goalkeeper ever kicked the ball, he would lose his shit.
What?
He'd go crazy. He'd go crazy. I remember at one point he would make us rotate. So he'd get the goalkeeper to put the ball down. And so what he asked was from every player to come into a space and try to receive it from the goalkeeper. If you couldn't, get out. And he would even encourage the 9 to drop all the way to the 18 if he had to. So that's how much he refused to play out. But it was in the beginning, it was kind of like, we got a lot of goals scored against each other. But honestly, man, like once we got on later into the season, we played other teams. It was insane what pressure we played out of sometimes.
Wow.
One touch. Sessions we would play sometimes like one touch 11v11.
Jesus.
Like that's how much of a guy he was, of a chess player in terms of his tactics. Like the players were so switched on how to move around each other. I've never done anything like it. Probably will never have that again.
I guess that's like the first time you really experienced like that level of training and like technical work in terms of like your session stuff.
Even the ideas around what he was doing with football. Like I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah,
That's
the 9
crazy.
dropping down to the 18 is
that's insane.
like maybe Harry Kane does it for Bayern nowadays. But like other than that, like it's not something usually you want that 9 to, be up there to receive the long ball. Like you mentioned, right? But obviously he doesn't want to kick that ball long. And you're coming from a completely different culture in England where you're playing on pitches with, divots and holes, and you can't pass the ball at all. You're playing long,
Oh yeah.
kick and run, and now all of a sudden you're being asked to do something completely different. So that's like obviously an insane culture shock. But obviously playing under that coach, I guess, what was like the biggest, takeaway or lesson that you learned from him? And like, was it something that you kind of took along for the rest of your career? Something you learned from him?
Yeah, I mean, it was just the simple fact of how many holes that I had in my game, the speed of play, the speed of thought, the speed of knowing where to be next. Honestly, man, it was a huge gap in learning for sure. But at the same time, I thought like by the end of those 6 months, I was pretty much kind of on par with the guys. So that's what I was really lucky. So a really kind of crazy part about that whole thing was the reason why I didn't get signed was because I was coming from a semi-pro environment.
Yeah.
And they claimed that they did my registration wrong.
Really?
But none of the guys were getting paid on the team. So they played those 6 months and I couldn't play it, but I stayed. So I could have went home, but I was like a decision again. I was like, do I go home?
Yeah.
Or do I ask to stay and train with these guys and this coach? And I was like, absolutely. Why would I not stay with this
exactly
amazing coach and just use it as 6 months of development?
Yeah.
And because I did, I think that's the reason why I signed pro, because we ended up playing another team, the team I signed for after Rakov Częstochowa.
Yeah.
And the coach asked about me already in the preseason. And then after that whole team fell apart, the team went bankrupt.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
The owner sold the club. Yeah. And so they dropped to like the 4th tier. And then, all the players basically scattered.
Went to different teams. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I signed with that other team.
Awesome. And then, so obviously signing with that new team, then that obviously led you to the next stage in your career where you went off to New Zealand.
Or from Poland. I still played another 2 years.
Another 2 years in Poland.
Yeah, yeah.
With that same club that you signed for initially?
No, so Widzew I didn't sign. Rakov was the team I signed for. So now it's kind of cool, man. Like the 3 teams I played for in Poland, they're all in the top league now.
Yeah.
Rakov is actually just missed out on Champions League this year.
Wow.
They lost to Copenhagen, I think, in like a 2-leg game.
Copenhagen now are playing against Man City, which is crazy to think about. Yeah.
And so yeah, man, it's pretty cool, man. I managed to actually be in these like top teams coming from, again, thinking about where I was coming from, right?
Yeah.
So like Rakov and all these teams, they had really big plans. So that was like, it was cool to be there. But the hardest thing was to break through, because you had so many players that were already known in those leagues, had, scored 20 odd goals for many seasons. So lots of great memories, but probably the best experience was with LKS, was actually the rival of Widzew.
Oh, okay.
So I think only because I never played,
Yeah.
I was able to sign for that team.
Interesting.
Or else they wouldn't sign you.
No,
It's like that,
honestly,
yeah.
to kind of give you guys, I think the Polish community knows this probably very well. Maybe Widzew and LKS is pretty much, I think, first or second biggest derby in Poland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So have you heard of Widzew?
No.
You should check it out, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Get known with your Polish football, man.
Yeah.
We're being educated.
Yeah. So those 2 fans, like it's kind of cool. They have like a city center street that goes like a main street that goes like a kilometer long, divides the city in half.
Yeah.
Like the 2 stadiums are maybe 500,000 meters away from each other.
Oh, wow.
And the rivalry is heavy, really heavy. It's crazy. And so when I signed for LKS, I ended up playing in that derby, and that's probably like my biggest footballing moment, was scoring in the last minute to tie it up.
Oh, damn.
Kind of was like a win for the city.
A win for you too.
Yeah, but for in derbies, like as long as you don't lose, it's still a win.
Were you guys the home team or the away team?
We were home.
You guys are
We were
home?
home. But I was kind of gutted because I didn't get to play the away game. The away game, they built a brand new stadium for like 25,000-30,000.
Oh, wow.
My parents flew over, and it was the first game they hadn't chosen me for a game.
Wow.
So that was imagine that, your parents fly over and
Damn.
So wait, so you scored in the home leg. How come you weren't selected?
Yeah.
What's the situation there?
trust me, man. If I could tell you how many times that happened. That's like kind of one of the things, I guess. I'm sure we have a lot of things to chat about in regards to like for players to understand people's journeys and how sometimes even when you're scoring. So I was in a lot of positions where I was scoring goals and I was still not starting, which was like criminal. You could say, right?
Yeah.
Like at Rakov, like the first 3 games, I had a few goals and then just wasn't chosen. And just for a coach to do that, like it's
Demoralizing.
criminal.
Yeah, it's tough.
Demoralizing even for
It's
yourself.
demoralizing one thing, yeah, but it's just kind of a bit more criminal. Like they wouldn't do that to their own,
Yeah.
but to a Canadian.
So you think it's more so like club politics at play?
No, it goes back to what I was saying to you guys. Like when you come from Canada, and for me coming at 23, signing at 23,
Yeah.
I have a guy in my position who's played there 5 years and has scored, I don't know, 15 plus goals over 5 seasons.
Right.
So as soon as like anything goes slightly wrong, they're not gonna, look to the guy that's just gone over here. They're gonna go to the guy that
It's been there, yeah.
And so that was kind of the story a lot of the time. Even at LKS was the same thing. Like my first round, this is even more demoralizing. Was the first round before I scored that goal, a derby goal, was I'd scored like maybe 3 or 4 game winners.
Damn.
So like these are points that like
You're winning, yeah.
and I wouldn't start the next game. And then the next week again, I would go in, maybe, I don't know, maybe 0-0, 1-1. I'd go in, last 10 minutes, score. And it kept happening. And then that derby game was like, okay, surely now.
Yeah. Right.
We had the break, the Christmas break. Next year comes around, I show up and the coach goes, sorry, bro, we're letting you know you're gonna be the second striker for the rest of the season.
Damn.
Like just directly like that. Like, sorry, bro.
And was the starting striker like competition that you felt like was worthy of it, or like even like
it's kind of funny. The other striker was also Ukrainian.
Oh,
He was
okay.
actually like from Ukraine.
your age too?
And-
Older?
A little bit older,
Mhm.
but he was the top goal scorer in the league.
Okay.
So, I mean, we created so many chances in this team. Like we had an amazing team. We were winning every game. Like it was really enjoyable. But we also wanted to play together. Like we played very well together. Just the coach was not interested in 2 strikers.
Okay.
So it was one of those situations.
Yeah, it's hard. Even seeing it now, you don't really see 2 strikers now
Yeah.
in today's football.
Very rare, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember like who was a good striker duo growing up.
I mean, it's tough. Like, they don't play 2 striker systems like that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Interesting.
Like, are you feeling at this point? I know you mentioned that, like, obviously you're a foreigner, so there's always going to be a bit of a challenge. But are you feeling like maybe that coach in specific, like, has something against you? Like, maybe just in the heat of the moment, or like you're just accepting the fact that you're a foreigner and it's just how it is, and you're just going to deal with it?
I think in those positions, coaches always have kind of like their
Favorites?
I don't know, their job's on the line at the end of the day. So it can be that. I don't want to guess. I think it's not fair to guess. Maybe the last team, that coach was a little bit like, he's a foreigner. But I also, you see things unravel sometimes. You see that like, for example, like their goalkeeper coach is like in your ear all the time in training. And like, we're just situations where you see this, where you see that they're doing everything they can to make sure that you're not going to play. And it's so blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
And you might not work the first time, not work the second time, but as soon as you mess up once, there's an excuse and you're out. Mm-hmm. It's that quick, So I know sometimes like in football, it's not about one player. They have a plan. They might, maybe making space for the next guy in. So it was difficult, man. Like this wasn't like a, nothing team. This is a team that's going to win the league
and compete.
And they're probably going to have to bring in the next, big stars to fill the gaps.
So what key, I guess, obviously, that's like another moment in your career where it's like you had to persevere, you had to go again. So where did that kind of take you next? Like, was that the main reason why you chose to, I guess, not look for another team in Poland? You look for kind of another journey?
Well, like the first year was the second division. The second year was the third division. And the third year was also the third division. But the thing is that now it was like I hadn't played enough minutes in all these teams. And so I was scoring some goals, but it wasn't enough to like get another team in the league because it's just so competitive.
Yeah.
So a striker with a couple goals, you know, at 23, 24, it just wasn't easy. And so like kind of the options, like my agent would tell me the same thing. He's like, look, like, you know, I feel bad. Like you're, you know, you're doing all the work, you're in the right places, you're doing the right things, but like it was out of his hands at that point.
Yeah.
And so it was like just time to look for I don't know, a different route, to be honest. That was like the unfortunate thing. But no, Poland was probably the most enjoyable. I think I was probably
Really?
the most exciting place to play with the fans, the ultras. Man, the ultras were crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts,
Yeah.
man.
But how's that feeling as a player though? Because it's almost as if like every year it's a new team, a new division. Like, what's that feeling that like there's so much inconsistency there? Like you're never comfortable. There's never a set situation for you. How's that impacting you as a player, even like as a person?
It was difficult. I think you in those moments you kind of just shove it down somewhere and you pretend like it's not going on. But I don't know. Like I told you, like there was this the perseverance side was always there. It's just a matter of like when is it gonna run out? When is it gonna become annoying? And when are you just gonna run out of options? So I had to kind of look at everything and just
Yeah.
be realistic a little bit too. Like, well, you know, one thing is ability, but you know, is there also another reason why I'm not playing? And so yeah, it just shows you how competitive pro football is. It's not a joke. And even when you're doing everything right, it still might not go for you.
Yeah.
So that's how it goes.
A lot of factors. A lot of factors take place.
Yeah.
No, and it's super honorable to see because it could be so easy for you to just give it up and go home because you're coming home to Canada. I'm sure like it's not like some other players, for example, like let's say players from maybe South America or Africa, where if they don't have that footballing chance, like they're going back to nothing, right? So it could have been so easy for you to come back. So the fact that you're able to just persevere and keep going, it's admirable, and it speaks volumes to kind of who you are as a player and as a person.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But obviously, next in your journey took you to New Zealand,
Yeah.
where you enjoyed one of your more prolific seasons as a goal scorer.
Yeah. I mean, there's more to it than just that. But no, New Zealand was like a completely off the map kind of decision. I was trying to look into Scandinavia, and again, it was kind of the same thing. Just with the resume, even though I played for the teams I played for, wasn't enough goals. They don't know you enough, and just no opportunities came up. And my buddy that I played with in Canada, a British guy actually, he was in New Zealand at the time, and he's like, listen, he'd asked me for like 2-3 years in a row. He's like, come here, come to the premiership here, something different, whatever. And so I was like, yeah, why not? Like let's try something different. Like, nothing else is really coming up right now. So yeah, I popped over to New Zealand and signed in the Prem there. So yeah, that was a different one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on a completely different side of the world, right? What's that league situation like? So obviously you're coming from Poland to Oceania in a sense. What's the football like at that point? Are you entering, what is it, the first division or the second division?
Oh, that was a premiership, yeah. At the time. So now, like, post-COVID, that whole league I think has collapsed.
Really?
Yeah, it was already run by like so it's kind of funny fact. The New Zealand Premiership used to be run by the slots at the bars.
What? Wow.
So all the funding
Jeez.
came from so you obviously had Air New Zealand, which was a huge part of it for all our games. And then basically these little like casino slots that you have at bars.
Funding the league.
That's
That's actually insane. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many of them, and it was just fun, the league. We only had like 8 teams in the league, or 8 to 10 teams. I can't remember now.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
and obviously the travel is not that much, right? So,
Yeah.
Because you're all within one island. Yeah.
Well, 2 islands.
Yeah. My fault. My fault. My geography's a little off there.
Yeah. No, it was a different experience, man. Like it's a magical place. First of all, there's no other word really to describe it. If you guys have ever been or ever will go, you guys should definitely.
Yeah. One day,
Best place
hopefully.
you've lived in?
It was definitely the most beautiful place I've lived in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it kind of goes without saying, you lose one with the other. Where like in Europe you have like the fans and the passion and that kind of like grit. There it just became a little bit more comfortable, obviously a little bit easier as well. But the competition surprisingly was actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, especially for like the first top 4 teams. You had like the top 2 that always make it into like the Club World Cup, actually.
Damn. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had Auckland City and Team Wellington were usually the 2 teams that were like the best.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty easy to get out of the group for Oceania to get in the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
You just had to play the islands.
Right.
Exactly.
And Australia had joined the Asian side.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah, it was always one team. I think there was one year where Auckland City played against Real Madrid, I'm pretty sure.
Damn.
Jeez.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on a podium was Ronaldo, Sergio Ramos, and one of the Auckland City players. So,
Imagine being that one guy. Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely a story for sure.
Yeah.
So obviously that took us, into roughly about, the COVID times, right? So obviously a lot was changing in the world. And that kind of found you coming back to Canada?
Yeah, I guess after playing in New Zealand, then the CPL kind of thing was on the cards. And so there was a lot of like hype around it. And I kind of gave into the media as well a little bit that, I'm going to be selected as one of the top attackers and whatever. But
Yeah.
kind of put all my eggs a little bit too much in one basket. Speaking, I won't name teams. I was speaking to 2 teams, and then it just didn't go through. And
Yeah.
it was, to be honest, probably one of the most unprofessional things I've seen.
Wow.
Really?
In terms of, I can say this now, 'cause I don't really care. But yeah, it was probably one of the most unprofessional things I've seen in terms of like negotiations and
Recruitment. Yeah.
yeah, just like you have conversations to certain points, and then, to pull the plug that way, it was just really weird. But yeah, anyway, it happened. I kind of got stuck. So then it was like, I'm in Canada. It's middle of March.
Yeah.
Can't really sign anywhere because seasons are going on.
Yeah. Middle of the season.
Yeah. And so that's when Vaughn came around.
Yeah.
So I just showed up at one of the Vaughn training sessions, and Patrice is there. There's 40 players on the field, and it's like, what is going on?
Shout out Vaughn.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out Vaughn. But if there's one guy who can manage 40 players at a time, it's Patrice.
Jeez.
It was actually crazy. I've never seen anything like it. It was probably 40 best players around the area, and everyone wanted to be at Vaughn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that time as well, I think Vaughn had, I think they won the league, and they were going to play the Canadian Championship. So
Mm.
I think everyone is really keen on getting on the team to play in that.
What was that Vaughn experience like? Because obviously you're going from pro level to what comes down to a bit semi-pro, but you're back home. What's your kind of mindset like at that point?
Yeah, it was really weird because I'm coming back. I'm like 28, 29. I'm pretty much in my prime at that point.
Yeah.
28. It was funny because going into Vaughn, Patrice really made everyone kind of work from zero.
Right.
So for me, obviously the level I was obviously, it was much easier for me, and obviously I've been training at such a high level for a long time, so it was quite obvious for myself. But for Patrice, he actually made me still really work for it,
Yeah.
which in some ways, some coaches, like the ones that push you, actually make you play better, and sometimes that same coach just will piss you off and
Yeah.
you don't want to do anything. But for me, it was always just like, all right, keep pushing me, I'll just keep doing the same. So it was enjoyable, man. Like we had the opportunity to play with some amazing players that are now, like, 2 years later, have all either MLS or in Europe in the World Cups. So yeah, it was a fascinating team, man. I'm sure Jordan told you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And obviously Patrice is an iconic coach, like in this area too. Is there any kind of tidbits that he taught you?
Well, his famous quote, "Kill."
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, it was so funny. I mean, like for me, like I'm already the type of player that will just like I'm a striker that will press and work and a runner. So I fit like directly in his in the way he wants to go.
Yeah.
But that was probably one of the funniest but the most enjoyable things was just like how high intensity every training session was, and it was wild, man. Like it was literally that he would tell us, kill him, and everybody would be pressing on the whole pitch, running after the ball. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what exactly you want me to say
Yeah.
about what I learned there.
Mhm.
But no, the environment was just probably the most healthy environment to be in at the time.
Yeah.
Really.
Players trying to go to the next level, because he would force players to, not go to their jobs and be at training.
Damn.
And if you decided that the job was more important, the next session you would be warming up with the second team.
Damn.
Yeah.
Maybe he'd let you back into the first team.
Yeah, Jordan spoke to us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like for some guys, especially with like some bigger egos, they probably didn't like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the concept worked, and you kind of have to sacrifice that for their culture, right?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing.
Something work.
Yeah.
I'm curious, up until this point, even looking back, who's the best player that you've played with?
Probably the most recent, last year in Germany. I played with a player who was playing in the Bundesliga the year before.
Yeah.
Ooh.
His name is Tom Weiland. You
Okay.
guys can have a look at him
Yeah.
All right.
now. He played for Bochum,
Okay. Yeah.
and honestly, I've never seen a player dribble this good in my life. And it wasn't even that he had like it wasn't about like some crazy tricks. It's just you can't get the ball off of him.
Yeah.
The way he would just cut like left, right. As soon as you get near him, he would have this just like the sharp cut that he would do on the spot, and he would just drop people to the ground constantly.
Damn.
Yeah.
What position was he?
He was a winger at Bochum, but he could play center mid, winger. Yeah, man, he had I actually think there was one year in Germany where he was like player of the month in the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like he was electric. He would just go on these runs, just weaving,
Yeah.
and he could finish. Fascinating player, a really good friend, one of my really good friends actually now.
Nice.
Damn. Awesome. And then obviously that kind of gives a little bit of a sneak peek to, the next step in your career after Vaughan. Obviously you had a couple good years that you enjoyed in Germany as well, obviously playing with players like that. What was that like in Germany? How did that move come about? Was there kind of a point where you thought, okay, I'm back home now, I'm going to stick it out here back in Canada? What kind of made you say, you know what, I'm going back to the jungle?
Well, I think what happened was that when I went to Vaughan, I was hoping that, the Vaughan season, us playing in the Canadian Championships, doing well in the league, which I did, would give me like a step to, let's say, the CPL at least, right? And so that did happen. It was a short stint. It was during the COVID bubble.
Okay.
So that bubble season. Played a few games, played at Ottawa, and then that basically gave me like the ticket back to like a professional status, because that was a big problem.
Mm.
As soon as I signed for Vaughan, my agent was like, my German agent at the time was like, what are you doing? Like, now I can't send you anywhere basically, because now you're
Yeah.
semi-pro. And so as soon as that came about, it was like, okay, now we can go.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's not about clubs. It was just like my status. And so I went. Wasn't the most ideal place, but that was a crazy story in itself too, because I'd arrived. I mean, the madness just continues. I arrived. Literally the day I arrived, I trained, and they already had a game like I think the next day.
Damn.
So, and it was the middle of the season, like October or something, and they were like, yeah, like you train. Then we did some like finishing at the end. The coach took me like aside, and just me and the goalkeeper did some finishing. Everything seemed fine. The next morning they had a training in the morning before the game at night.
What?
So obviously everyone's speaking
Oh,
German.
yeah.
I have no idea what. So they're standing there. I'm doing like the rondos and stuff with them, and just warming up. And the coach is speaking, and he's just clapping, and they're like looking at me, like clapping, maybe like a welcome or something.
Yeah.
Like, welcome, right? Then we go do set pieces, and I'm just standing off on the side, and he starts naming out the players who are attacking corners. And then the guy looks at me. One of the players goes, "Hey, bro, let's go." What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean, bro? Like, you're playing. I'm like, what? Okay, true. So I'm doing set pieces, and so like I'm delirious at this point. Like I just flew over. I'm jet lagged.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, man. Like I didn't know what was going on, to be honest. Like the first session was great, this morning session, and then like in 3 or 4 hours I'm playing a game. I
What
had
the
no idea
heck?
I was even playing. My agent messages me right after the session. He's like, "Yeah, you're signed. You're good to go." And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm in the game. so I probably won't start. I'll be
Yeah.
on the bench. Team sheet comes out, I'm starting.
That's crazy.
So, and then it gets better. So this is one of my wilder stories, I guess, was on top of that. So I go in the game. We're playing some team that should beat us. They weren't like the best team, the team I was playing for. And within like the first 10, 15 minutes, like I'm just running on pure adrenaline. I don't know what's going on at this point. I like get a yellow, I like tackle someone. And then 20 minutes later, I receive the ball, played out wide, guy crosses it in, other guy scores 1-0. And then it was like the 44th minute, I received the ball in the middle, dribble past one guy and just shoot from like, I would never shoot from this distance. I don't know. Again, I was so delirious. Just struck it from like, I don't know, 35 yards out.
Jeez.
Taught like off the post and in, took off my shirt, second yellow right.
Come on.
You forgot you had the first yellow?
No.
Bro, I told you I don't even do this.
This guy had no idea what was happening.
That's like a blooper right there. Like you see, like, bro, that happened in the what that happened in the Libertadores finals, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
player took his jersey off after tying the game or winning the game.
And that the media ate that up so hard.
I could imagine.
I got destroyed. But it was actually like, it was kind of like good media, even though it was
Yeah.
bad media.
Yeah.
Because you just scored an absolute worldie, right?
Yeah.
You're
You
fresh
scored
off the
a
plane,
worldie.
first game, you're scoring. So
Yeah.
Any kind of
Or-
PR is good, right?
So then I'm sitting in the changing room. And actually, it was funny too. Once I took my shirt off, I tried to put it right back on. Literally in the video, I was like,
Make sure the ref doesn't see.
it was too late. Like immediately, it just clicked.
Like, what was it fully off or like midway off? You
No, it
realized?
was off.
Swinging it around.
There's no swinging. This thing, as soon as it came off, I was just trying to put it right back on. I was like, no way. But it was just like again, it was just delirium. Like,
Yeah.
like when you score, especially when you score a goal like that, like you just kind of go blind for a second.
For sure.
And so like just considering all the circumstances, and it was obviously one thing we missed is I had a really bad injury after the Vaughan season, after COVID. So there was like a really, really long, I didn't think I would play again.
Damn.
It was like, tear from like the top of my bone. Usually those kind of injuries,
Damn.
you're done, right?
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like, oh my God, I'm back in Europe again. One last chance. And then to kind of make an introduction like that, it was a lot of emotion.
Damn.
Poured out with it. And then I was basically in the change room just like praying, like just looking at my phone, praying that they don't score. Praying that we don't
So
lose this
it
game.
was 2-0 at that point.
2-0 at the time. Then they scored 2-1, and I'm like just in panic sitting there on the side. I
What
ended up
point?
winning the game. So,
Oh, dope.
game-winning goal. There you go. Yeah.
yeah. And then 2 days later, COVID happened. The season got canceled.
Jesus.
Talk about from high to low.
I'm telling you, it's wild, this football game.
Yeah.
But what's the coach saying like after the game? Like everyone's back in the change room now. Like what's he saying to you?
Honestly, man, this coach really, really liked me.
Yeah.
He was very, very German, but he whatever reason, he really liked me. He just saw what he saw in me. And so it was actually one of those coaches that would probably play me the whole season. I would
Yeah.
start
Damn.
every time, right? And so we just kind of played, after that, it was just basically, we played preseason games until they would start the league again, in theory, right? And by the time they did, he got fired. New guy came in, and then a whole bunch of other stuff happened with me. I got Lyme disease.
What?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, Lyme disease was a heavy one. I think in Germany it's quite common.
Oh,
Really?
There was there's another player on my team who had got it.
Yeah.
Just a little tick.
Yeah.
Just bites you. If it's infected, then
Damn.
it was weird, man. So I went on vacation and came back. Came back with my partner, and then after, I just started feeling these inflammation in my other hamstring and my toe and my Achilles.
Yeah.
And so pretty much the next season was pretty much a write-off because it was a smaller club. So now the club kind of turned against me. They're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like you're the international player. So like, you need to be on the pitch. And so, basically after that, everything kind of went to shit with that team.
Damn.
And ended up going home.
Yeah.
Probably I would say February.
Damn.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
man.
That's
Hell of a career. So
insane. Yeah.
So there was that. And then then that same coach, the good thing I got to play last year was that coach that was there before he got fired. ended up bringing me to Greifswald, the team I played with last.
Most recently, right? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
And where was that? Germany as well.
Yeah, Germany.
Nice.
Yeah, that was with the. Give you another fun fact. I was playing under Toni Kroos' dad,
What?
Yeah, cool.
No way. What was his dad's name?
Yeah.
Roland Kroos.
Roland. Okay.
So
That's
that
awesome.
was quite cool too, just to kind of be coached under like probably the most
Yeah.
iconic German player.
Same kind of passing ability or what?
A little bit older. Yeah, no, it was that was cool. Yeah, just different character, but yeah, like it was time to learn the German. Like that second year was really like if I didn't learn German, like you were never going to be accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing in that country. Once you learn the language, everything changes.
Are you fluent now?
Much better now. Yeah.
Much better?
Yeah. Now I can have a full conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, obviously,
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, obviously, coming out to the end of your career and looking back at the crazy career you've had, even just having this moment and you talking about it, like, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and a lot of transition from place to place. Even just getting used to the culture as well, players, new coaches. Well, what kind of advice would you give to like a younger self? What changes would you have made in terms of decisions you made? So like a younger you, what would you have done?
The game will always take more than it gives you. I think that's like a big one. Anyone in football needs to realize is the game will always take more. And so if you're willing to accept that and still enjoy it, then you go and do it. That's like probably the biggest thing. And just to stay patient. That's the biggest thing. I was always a little bit impatient and everything because I was always felt like I was behind. I had to chase, and have that chip on the shoulder and try to prove something, But everything comes, if you're doing the right things, everything comes in the right timing. So I guess that's my sense on that.
End of the day, you just love the sport in general. That's what kept you pushing. You just love that sport so much. You hear stories now of some players who just don't even care about the sport. I forgot who. There's one player I heard recently. Like, they don't love the sport of soccer, but they just play it because it's like a job they get paid for.
They make money doing it too,
They
right?
like big basketball more than they actually play soccer. I forget who it was. Was it
Carlos
Cruz?
Vela.
Was it Vela?
Yeah.
Oh, it was Vela. That's the one.
Is that recently he said
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I think that's like a thing that he's mentioned like from like I guess early in his career. Like obviously he had a big career too, right? Going to
Yeah.
Sociedad, then now playing Arsenal, and then going out to LA. Like he was talented. Where if he took his career seriously, he probably would have been one of the top players in the world.
Yeah.
Where I guess again he'd had a great career in MLS, but imagine not loving what you do and like a bunch of people, even like yourself and like a lot of us, right? Like just love the sport and even just being present on that pitch is just crazy and just not loving it. That's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, that's strange.
I think I don't know. I think the game now is like players. Well, like Carlos Vela, he'd be playing probably since he was. Honestly, I would imagine probably 14, 15, 16. He was already probably signed somewhere pro.
Yeah.
Where you add another 7 years to me, where I started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think when you get all that early, and so you're at those high places very quickly, and you're making so much money so early.
Sure.
It's almost easier to kind of like his ability is always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's just a question of
Just
like,
fall out of it, not enjoying it, not loving
he can
it.
just say that, and he can just go down and play wherever. That's like the crazy part about it, right?
Yeah.
Or you have guys who are like playing for nothing and grinding and just want to get any opportunity, right? But I don't know. Each to their own. There's no right or wrong,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Well, a lot of career paths for everyone, right? You can see one kid growing up through the roots of one club, playing there forever. Then you have one guy caught in between. Yeah, just never having that opportunity, right? So football is a story of its own for everyone.
Are you that guy? Are you like Totti, this type of guy, one player, one club?
No,
One club mentality.
not necessarily. No, but it's crazy. Yes, football is a crazy sport.
I'm curious though, like where did this mentality come from? Because obviously such a long career with a lot of setbacks, nothing coming easy. Would you say like maybe your parents instilled this in you? Maybe you had like an experience as a kid that really kind of motivated you? Where'd this mentality to just keep going come from?
Honestly, I can't put like a finger on it completely. It's probably a mix of a lot of things. My parents were always my dad was an athlete, so I'm sure maybe from his like pro experiences, some of those genes kind of passed through. My mom's very stubborn, so probably that stubbornness in the right way is something that probably like definitely helps me. But for me, I think it was, again, just like the fantasy and the dream of like just becoming a pro, and like nothing else being in the way of it. I think just having, it was always my plan A.
Yeah.
So I think there was a point in my career too when you start to kind of become a little bit more intelligent, and you start to open. I was open-minded, but you open your eyes to like different possibilities outside of football. That's when you can start, the other things can start crawling and creeping in, you know? That's why you see like, you know, players all over the world, younger ages say, oh, it's not worth it, or it's not enough money. Of course, that's the objective fact, but, you know, is that why you're doing it? And so for me, it was never about the money initially anyway, right? Then eventually, obviously, as the career went on, you know, the money will come. You know, as long as you're playing a good level, you're doing the right things, the money will always come there. And even if it doesn't, then what you learn from football, you can, the rest of life is not that difficult. I think that football and sport will teach kids like everything they need in life. So I look back now and I say, yeah, absolutely. Every single one of those experiences were worth it, because it's like, if that was that crazy, like how bad can it really be? And that was out of my hands. Now it's in my hands. So yeah, it's something to think about as well.
Well, it's a great lesson. And now that it's in your hands, you're a viral striker coaching star. Like I said, obviously you've been killing it with the striker training. What made you take that route? What kind of inspired that?
I was thinking about that on the way here, actually, and I saw that question. I was like, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. I wasn't always a starter, so I think some of it as well was just from like being able to observe and see like what could I do to get on the pitch. So I was always watching my position, even like games, or I'd watch like, you know, the guy in my position, like what is he doing that I'm not getting on the pitch.
Right.
And so obviously sometimes it wasn't purely on ability, but obviously I was always just looking and seeing like, you know, like what are the intricacies, what are the details in this position, what is in the movement, the positioning, and quickly realized like how much learning I didn't have in those earlier years that I imagine if I had that, you know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago before, how much further I could have played, and what I could have done, where I could have positioned myself in situations, you know? So, and then I had a kind of a little bit of an inspiration from, I followed this guy, I don't know if you guys know him, he's called Superior Striker.
Okay.
He's now the attacking coach for the English national team.
Really?
Yeah. And he was also like a Scottish player who played in America. I was following him literally when he was still in America. He was just training some NCAA kids.
Yeah.
And then after that, he had a few like MLS players. Then he went back to England, and out of nowhere, he was training like League One, Championship, Premiership, and, like, international players. Yeah. So I thought like as soon as I saw that the first time, I was like, that is if I finish playing that is the dream job. Like,
yeah.
What else would you want to do? Like that's teaching people how to score goals is amazing.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was kind of the first.
Is that the goal for you though, to make it to a kind of top tier kind of coaching staff? Or you like the more individual training, player development?
I guess the question is, my answer is like it kind of depends. I got my UEFA B last summer as well in Germany, so that was a nice little bump.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure right now, man. It's all up in the air. I have a lot of experience even in Germany. I was coaching the U17s at one of the clubs, so I enjoy the team environment, and definitely with the older kids, it's very enjoyable for me. The individual stuff is the most rewarding because you just see how quickly kids like grab a hold of something that you show them, and then they directly use it in their next game. And I don't know, I think I have more of a fascination right now with the individual stuff, the smaller group stuff. But I'm not really sure what direction it's going to go. Right now, I'm just having fun with it.
Yeah.
Whether it's social media or on the field, podcasting, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value from obviously playing, and now it's like, what's the best way to give value back finally, you know?
Yeah.
Selfish for so many years, doing it for yourself. So
What was the process like for getting your UEFA B license?
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of lucky. So because I've played a few years pro, and I had known someone in Germany. I just went through basically some kind of little agency there, and I was able to apply for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of paying for it. But yeah, I was lucky enough to be like classed as like a domestic as well, because I'd lived there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of internationals on the course and stuff like that too.
So how long's that course then?
It was like a 2-week intensive course.
Yeah.
So normally this course is like, I don't know, maybe you have to go back maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But I was lucky enough to do it in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Get it done, yeah.
Yeah, but it was heavy. It was like probably 8 hours on the field and in the office. So yeah, it was good.
If that coach back in Poland hit you up to come under his wing, are you going?
Oh yeah. I don't think he even trains professional football anymore. I think he now does academy. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I'd be really curious to see what he's doing, what he's up to.
What's he putting on what he's doing to those kids compared to what he's doing with you guys?
It's probably the same guy. Probably the same guy. For
Striker
sure.
still dropping all the way back to their zone 18.
For sure.
What would you say is the number one thing you kind of focus on when training and developing with your players?
The main thing I see myself saying quite often to these kids is that they need to learn how to build themselves a process. So I think a lot of players, they get really stuck on like everything but the objective facts. So like if they don't score, they're putting their hands in their head, or they're, I suck, or they just go and do the same thing again. And so like that's why I find a lot of value in what I do. And I think it gives players a big weapon, to be honest, and something they get to learn and use for a lifetime. Because once you learn and you build a process for yourself, like, I don't know, let's say just striking the ball with the inside of your foot. Once they know, okay, my foot goes here, the ball goes there, I swing my foot like this is the angle. Once they actually understand that and they're able to say it to themselves or teach someone, like, what else are you worried about? Mm-hmm. So if you miss, you're not thinking about, oh, I missed. You're thinking about, okay, hold on, what did I do wrong here?
What did I do wrong? Yeah.
And so that's so much more powerful than just reacting.
Yeah.
And it's quite cynical. It seems quite cynical, quite like robotic in the way I'm saying it, but really it's that simple, right? Like if you think a crowd of 2,000 is a lot of fans, then you're going to think it's a lot of fans. Your brain doesn't know any better, basically, is what I'm saying, right? And so it's the same way with anything to do with finishing. Just building a process is like basically what I say to them, and that's what I teach them.
Yeah, ultimately you're just trying to get these players to learn from their failures, because there's no easier way to learn than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say is the most important quality a striker should possess?
Probably, I would say positioning. Maybe positioning. What else? Positioning. I had a few ideas, actually, I wanted to tell you guys.
Mentality, maybe?
Mentality. Yeah, actually, mentality and willingness to make runs. It's hard to answer because it's kind of a mix, right? But I think the willingness to go again is probably the biggest thing. You see probably even right now as a Liverpool fan, like a Darwin Núñez.
Yeah.
But he gets so many chances.
Yeah.
And so the most important thing is that he's always there. That's literally, like, even you hear Klopp say it all the time, is like, as long as he's there, that's the most important. The rest will when it ticks, like he will go off. It'll be crazy. So the hardest thing is to know where to be. I think that's the biggest thing. So a lot of kids I see, they have a great shot. They have absolutely no idea how to get into the position to execute it.
Right.
And so what? That you go and train it. If you have no idea where to be, it doesn't matter. You won't score any goals. So that would be for me the biggest one.
What would you say is kind of like, is there a moment, because obviously you've been creating this reels, you've been creating this content. Is there a moment where it went super viral and you're just like, wow, like this could really take off?
I think I always knew that like every kid loves to shoot. I mean, like I think it's one of those, it was one of those things where I was like, you know what, like I love this, so I can't see why other people wouldn't love this. Like, if you're just a random player starting to play, what's the first thing you do? You take a ball and you want to go shoot.
Exactly.
So it was more of just like learning the skill set and learning to understand, okay, like what do people want to see? And then now once you have like that ability to, let's say, as you call it, go viral, you're then able to like start really helping people that like have a problem, and you can really show them like, look, this is how you can do it. And so it's really cool, man. I don't know. I don't really know the moment that it became viral. Maybe like, I don't know, a couple months ago, 2 months ago, like the first video that kind of went viral. But yeah, now it's kind of going a little bit out of control. But no, it's enjoyable, man. It's enjoyable to see how you can affect people on a bigger scale than just, your community or in your own country.
Is there a top player that you've trained with that we should maybe keep an eye out for, that is maybe next up and coming?
I don't know if I want to rat them out. I don't know. I don't know who's next up. I'll let them do their thing. I don't want to put them
Fair. Unfair.
Too much pressure.
Too much pressure.
Just let them do the work with their feet. They'll do the talking.
Like, obviously you've had a great storied career and you're continuing to build this audience, build your footballing prowess through this coaching. But there's a last question I want to ask you here that kind of ask everyone. Who's your football GOAT?
Oh man, I feel like I'm walking into a trap here again. I'm not gonna pick Messi or Ronaldo, just because they both are incredible players. In most recent times, purely as a striker, or just the greatest of all time.
Just however you interpret the question, however you think.
Just the GOAT.
As a striker,
Just to you.
As a striker, purely for me, I loved Kun Aguero.
Aguero, eh?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't tell you why, but it's just his ability to score goals. Like, I don't know, man. If that guy could play for another 10 years, he would break every record there is.
Yeah.
Really.
Shame about the heart condition he had, right?
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It sucks, but he was just like the ultimate finisher for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yourself?
No, I'm curious though. Like, why aren't you choosing between Messi or Ronaldo?
They're in their own. They're in their own world, man.
There's not one you prefer though?
They're in their own world, man. I think they both have something so fascinating. One guy, they always say one guy's more self-built. The other guy is, born miracle and machine. Like. But who am I to say? Who am I to say who's the bigger GOAT? Like one guy, they're both still playing. One guy's still banging in goals week in, week out. The other guy's chilling in Miami now.
Not a bad time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, what I'm really excited about is to see who's next up. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm really excited to see who's going to be like.
Who do you think? What player out there do you feel like is going to be stepping up into like the light now? Obviously, you have your Mbappe, who's obviously a great finisher on his own. Haaland, again, one of the best finishers in the world. Kane, he's still there, but who's that young guy that you kind of have an eye on?
I like I said, I don't like always going for like the obvious ones right now. I had a chat with some of my boys again. Probably gonna laugh hearing this, but there's a player right now. I want you guys to have a look at him. He's really, really. I like these like number 10s. These are players that don't really exist anymore, but
coming back.
They're really exciting. So I don't know if you guys watch Bayern Leverkusen this season.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
You know which player?
I know what you're talking about. Words?
Yes.
Florian Words.
That's the guy.
This guy, man, it's exciting. Really, really exciting to see what happens with him after this season.
Do you think there's any move for him?
I would. I would move him very quickly. You just don't see it anymore. Like I love that Coutinho type as well.
Oh,
but those guys in the pocket, like
it's hard though.
just to make
Coutinho, Ozil, James. That kind of role is just dead these days.
They don't exist.
Position doesn't really exist like that anymore, right?
But Wirtz, he's making it work. I think with Xabi Alonso as the coach, I think that's the perfect kind of figure for him to learn under, because Xabi Alonso is teaching him how to move and understand the game in areas that aren't just the 10. Like he's not just like sitting, in that spot waiting to receive the ball. He's all over the pitch. Like he's working. Like I saw it this past week. They had a midweek fixture in the cup, and then they had a huge game on the weekend. And the midweek fixture, he didn't really have too much of a part to play. Like he wasn't really impacting the game in terms of goals and assists, but he ran more than anybody on the pitch, which you never see in a number 10. The number 10 is always there, usually waiting to receive the ball to create, But if you have a number 10 who's able to do that, create the most chances in Europe this year, but also who's running more than any other player on the pitch, like that's special. And I think that's really what it's gonna take for the number 10 to come back. Like you need to be a working number 10, which is something that never really existed before.
Yeah, in Germany as well, it's very much a running game.
Yeah.
So the one thing I really noticed in the German game, different than everywhere else, is the deep runs from like these, you call them a 10, but even 8s. So the 8s are always going between the center back and the right back, center backs and the left back, and they're always running in behind. And so, when you see a guy like that, I didn't even know these stats. I've just seen him playing. I've seen a lot of the games, and he's always on the score sheet or is assisting. And that's for me. I like to see new guys coming through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I'm curious. We always have this debate, like, what's your favorite kind of genre of footballer? Like, what's your favorite style of striker? Do you like a poacher? Do you like maybe an undersized, like built kind of forward? Do you like what's your favorite style of striker?
An example,
maybe like a comparison, like what player emulates that?
I already give you the guy, Bobby Firmino, man.
Firmino, eh?
I can do everything. I like a guy who can come short, can run in behind, can set up goals. I think as I'm getting older, I also started to notice that I would drop in more, and I enjoy finding the last pass as well.
Yeah.
But for me, watching that guy is just pure joy, man. Like he can do everything. And as the years went on, he was like, they say he couldn't score, and then he would score 15 goals, and he would get 10 assists. I mean, I think that's kind of where the game's going to, is like you need 9s that are able to do, and he could press. I mean, really, he could do everything.
Klopp team, you have to.
Yeah. So that was that's the guy for me.
Nice.
Kind of that false 9, almost.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Firmino was a baller, man.
Underrated.
I hate to see him in Saudi now because he's not doing the best.
No, but I feel like a lot of players went there and they're not enjoying it. He's gonna have a move soon.
Yeah, some players are trying to push out of Saudi already, right?
Yeah. Ronaldo loves it though. Stat Pat.
Would you go play in Saudi? Would you rather play in Saudi or MLS?
Let's say pick your goat.
Can I say I prefer not to speak?
Fair.
I don't know, man. Depends when.
Depends when? What do you mean?
Depends when. I don't know. Like right now, this moment.
Sure.
What's the contract?
Who's paying me more?
What's the contract? What city? What team?
That's a big deal. MLS City makes a big deal.
Let's say Cincinnati. No. Let's say Miami, or like you're playing for like Al Nassr.
Yeah.
Am I starting Nasser? I'm going directly there, playing with Ronaldo straight in.
Yeah, or you're playing with Messi.
Yeah.
And Suarez.
Yeah.
And Busquets.
Miami, my friend. I'm thinking 3 steps ahead.
Fair.
Awesome, man.
I agree. But yeah, like Maksym, obviously, we had such a blast. Appreciate you coming
Thanks,
through,
man.
hearing about your story. I think even for the viewers and everyone listening, super inspiring. Like the long journey that you've been on, the ability to get put down and go back up, and then continuing to flourish, and then even stepping out of the game, but still being involved in the game. It's beautiful to see. So we appreciate you coming by, and hopefully we'll get you back again soon.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for coming on.
100%. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Drop a like, subscribe, check out Maksym on all socials, and be the culture.
Be the culture, man. And with that, we out. Peace. Ciao.
Dope.
Boom.
Awesome.
Dope.
It's gonna feel that long. It was an hour and a half, but it.